Hello everybody, and today's video is all about preserving eggs. A number of you have been asking me, how can we preserve eggs when the chickens stop laying, but we still want to eat eggs in winter time and early spring before the hens start coming back into lay again? Well, this is something that I have been doing for many years with great success, and it is super easy to do. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you how I preserve eggs. We can freeze eggs by cracking them into a container and slightly beating them and popping them in the freezer. And then we can obviously preserve eggs in our baking and putting our cooked goods into the freezer. But this way actually preserves the egg as it is actually in the shell. And we're going to do it in a liquid solution in a tub. And first of all, we need to actually think about the egg itself. So ideally, I like to preserve my eggs that have been laid that morning or the previous day. However, you can go back a couple of days, so you can use 3-day-old eggs if you need to. But the ideal thing is, because we're preserving food here, we want it to be the freshest possible, because these can go into the preservation solution and be pulled out 10 months, 11 months, 12 months later if you so need to. And I've done that many times, and I will show you in a short while what it looks like to pull out an egg that's been preserved for that length of time and how it looks. So when you choose your fresh eggs, you're wanting to look for a good hard shell. You're not wanting a shell that feels thin or is grainy or is blemished in some way. So you're looking for a good hard shell. The other thing you don't want is any dents or cracks. So the shell needs to be completely intact. And the other thing you don't want to do is to choose slightly dirty eggs. If they have any soil or debris on them, you can't use those for preserving. So you need to look for a really super clean, super healthy looking, intact egg. And we're not going to wash these. So you can't choose your dirty eggs and think, I'm going to wash them. When the chicken lays the egg, she coats this egg in a special substance. And we want to keep that on there to preserve that. So we don't want to remove any of that at all. So it's imperative really that we keep our nest boxes as clean as possible, so that we're not pulling out dirty eggs. Certainly for preserving anyway. So those are the eggs. And we're going to choose which ones we're going to preserve from that basket in a while. The solution that we make up is called a lime solution, and it's hydrated lime. So it's lime that hasn't got any caustic, anything caustic in it anymore. It's sort of been activated, and you end up with this white chalky powder. And I bought a big sack of this from a builder's merchant. It's called builder's lime or hydrated lime, and it's really cheap to buy. And you end up with, well, I did anyway, I ended up with a big sack, which I've had for years, and I keep it in the barn, and I just fill up this container when I need to, and I keep my sack covered in a plastic bag, and as long as it's dry and it doesn't get damp, it'll be absolutely fine. So that's what we use, and we then dissolve that in some water. And I keep a lot of my little recipes in this handy little book I've had for years. It's super useful because I can just jot down all sorts of things that I'm doing, even though I'm doing it regularly. It's amazing how you just need to remind yourself of those extra details. So here I've got my little recipe for pickling lime for winter eggs. Now we're not pickling the eggs, they're retaining their integrity. The lime wash or the lime solution is going to coat this egg, because this shell has got lots of little pores in it that helps gas exchange when this egg is fertilized and a chick is growing, because obviously the chick needs to have oxygen intake, and that happens through this shell. So the lime coats and goes into the pores of the shell and stops that happening and keeps the moisture as well, the moisture content within the shell. That's how it preserves it. So the recipe for making the pickling lime to store your eggs in is 1 ounce of hydrated lime stirred into 1 quart of distilled water. That's 1 quart or 2 pints of water. And 1 ounce of hydrated lime is the same as 29 grams of hydrated lime. So that's what we're going to do now. So we want 1 ounce of lime, to 1 pint of water. So that's our first pint of water, and then we stir in our second pint of water. You just get that stirred in as much as you can into this milky white liquid that we're going to submerge our eggs in. Now, what do we store the eggs in? Well, we have quite a number of hens here, and I like to store quite a few eggs when we get this flush of laying in the early spring. And I will bring the eggs in and I will choose a few out of there and I will pop them into my container. And this is the kind of bucket I like to use, with a good tight lid on it to stop any of the liquid evaporating out when they're in storage. And I will just build up a layer in the bottom, and I'll pour the lime water over the top to cover them by about 1 inch. And then the next day I'll do the same, and so I keep building the layers up until I get to the top. And the top layer of eggs is covered by a good inch of the lime solution water. And then I like to put a sticker on the top and just write on there the date that I started preserving the eggs. And in the early days, I even used to keep a bit of a tally on there of how many eggs that I had in the container. And then that will go into a cool, dark place. Now we have a root cellar, so it's ideal for us to store things like this. We just carry the bucket down there and we store them in there until we get to the winter months. And then I can just literally go down with my bowl when I don't have any fresh eggs from the chickens, and I can pull out a couple of eggs and bring them up to the kitchen. And then I've got them for my baking or for my scrambled eggs. The only thing that I wouldn't use these pickled eggs for, these preserved eggs, sorry, is to do as a boiled egg, because we've changed the shell on it, the boiling doesn't happen in the same way. But if you're going to crack the egg for anything, it's perfectly fine. The egg smells good, it looks good, and it tastes good. So it doesn't change the integrity of the egg at all. For the purpose of what we're doing today, I'm going to show you how to preserve in a smaller container, because you might not have such a great quantity of eggs as I do, and you might just want to put just a few aside. And you can use a container this size, it's perfectly fine, or slightly larger. It can be glass or plastic. I wouldn't use metal because we are using a lime solution here, so it's best to stick with glass or plastic. I believe you could even use wood as well if you want, or crockery. But before we get to showing you how to preserve them, I just wanted to show you these. I've been down to the root cellar and pulled out 4 of my eggs, and these were preserved back in March of last year. That's 10 months ago that they've been sitting in the preserving solution. And I just wanted to show you what they look like. So I've pulled these out of the solution and popped them in the bowl. And what we're going to do is we're going to wash off this lime solution now. We want to get rid of all of that because we don't want any of that to fall into our cooking. Clean all that lime solution off, and then we'll crack an egg and we'll have a look at it and see what it looks like. Right, so here we go. We've got our egg that's been preserved for 10 months and we'll see what it looks like. There we go. Impressive. So the white is perhaps a little bit more watery, but we can still see that the yolk is a lovely golden yellow colour. It's nice and pert, and it's still intact as an egg. It looks clean, it looks clear, there's no cloudiness about it, there's no discoloration, and it smells fine, absolutely fine. And that's beautiful egg that then you can use in the winter time until the chickens start laying again, and you've got it for your cooking. Right, so we've got our container and we're going to choose our really clean, intact eggs, and we're just going to put them in the base of our container carefully. Careful not to drop any of the eggs. You want to keep them nice and intact. We'll do one more. So you can see I could have filled this container higher, but I'm going to mimic what I normally do. That might be the number of eggs that I might want to keep back from this morning's laying to be preserved, maybe even less than that. It doesn't matter if you want to preserve 2 or if you want to preserve 20 in one go. It doesn't matter at all. And you can keep adding to your container. So now we take the lime solution and we'll give it another stir, because we do tend to get some of it settling to the bottom. The main thing is that when we pour it over, we've got a good dispersion of lime in this water, so that it's going to wash over the eggs and fill in all those little pores. We don't want hot water. This is just normal cold water. And we just pour that over carefully, because we don't want the eggs to rock or to move out of their place and bang next to one another, just in case we might crack them. So that's covered over. There's a good inch at least above the top of the top egg with the liquid. And then we put the lid on, making sure that it fits nice and tightly. And I can always add a few more eggs to that the next day if I need to. So this will go in a place where it doesn't freeze. Don't keep them in the fridge, you don't need to. Just put them in a dark place. You could even wrap a tea towel around this if you want, and hold it with an elastic band just to keep the light out, and just put it somewhere where it's not super warm. We want to keep this at sort of an okay temperature. Not freezing, but not hot either. So it could even be in the bottom of your kitchen cupboard, or in the bottom of a cupboard somewhere in a coolish room, just somewhere where you can get to it as well easily, if you're still wanting to add eggs to it. So that's the way it's done. It's really super easy. 1 ounce of hydrated lime to 2 pints of water, and you preserve only the best eggs that you have, and you can pull them out. I've used them 12 months, even past 12 months. I've taken them out of the cellar. If we've, for some reason or another, and we haven't managed to have any eggs, and I've been pulling from that supply down there, and it's perfectly all right. It's a great way to preserve. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video.